Hey everyone, and welcome back to another Warcraft video. Okay, look, after yesterday's one, you're probably wondering, why the hell am I doing this, right? Why am I even talking about this stuff? Well, there's actually a lot of important updates. Number one, a Blizzard member of staff has actually reached out to me regarding the Horrific Vision loot situation, so there's a little bit to talk about there. Turns out, I mean, my reading that actually is, a lot of people don't know that that is supposed to drop loot in the way that it did in PTR, and it seems like the issue that I reported is actually massively underreported, but is actually an issue, so that is a fairly interesting thing. We've got the auction house that's quite literally deleting, millions of gold. Now, this is something that should be fixable, but there's a whole bunch of things. I mean, there was even a situation last night after the video went live where people were being automatically given 7-day suspensions for, just in some cases unintentionally sort of exploiting the game. We even then had a daily quest problem where they'd infinitely respawn. That's, we don't really know if bans are happening right now, but certainly if people are doing that 4, 5, 6, 7 times, they are risking getting their accounts banned. Basically, there is a lot of really important stuff to update and a few essentially just PSAs to give you so that everyone is up to date here. First, though, I do actually want to talk about why I think this is happening. Now, look, I'm just going to say it this way. It's fairly common knowledge with the people who are doing a job like mine and, who are on the right Discord servers that the WoW team is actually fairly behind schedule, and that's why 835 was cancelled. And, look, Ian is just the guy who is leading the team. He's the game director of World of Warcraft, but, the deadlines are set for him. The WoW team doesn't actually seem to have that much freedom in how they change those things about. And that's really what sort of leads to situations like this patch where I think if you were to ask any World of Warcraft developer, they probably would have wanted more time in this one. So it's a pretty rough situation for them as humans. Now, also, they are understaffed to hell across non-core development roles. I mean, I heard last year around the layoffs from a few different sources that the QA department was hit especially hard by those layoffs. And I think if you look at the QA issues, right, in this patch, the impact of that is very clear. Now, the sad thing there is the core World of Warcraft development team is, having a rough time with schedule, okay? But because the QA team has been understaffed and because this patch has been forced to come out before it was really ready, now that development time is being, not wasted in fixing the patch, but, ideally things would have happened in a smoother manner. And this is just going to make the human cost of Shadowlands actually increase because it's going to hurt the schedule even more. So, overall, I think the developers of World of Warcraft are probably as, ticked off of this situation is going on than the players. I mean, look, we log in and the game's not ideal. They're probably having to pull a hell of a lot of overtime. And the reason why is because, well, there's loads of bugs because they had an understaffed QA department. Why did that happen? Well, it's because the bean counters at Activision-Blizzard HQ Santa Monica last year decided, hey, let's axe 800 employees, including a whole bunch of support roles. I mean, it really does seem to be pretty darn wild. I mean, just look at the amount of CMs that, disappeared. I mean, at this stage, I'm pretty sure that Josh is doing 7 million people's jobs. It's pretty darn rough. So with that context established, and with it, I think, extremely clear that this is not about blasting the developers at Blizzard. It is, about just an overall issue that's really just facing all of us. It's now time to take you through the issues, give you a few PSAs, and just updates in the game so you know what's actually going on. So number one, let's just cover the cache auto bans. So basically, there's a situation, right, where the caches, like the weekly caches in the new assault zones, they would essentially respawn under certain conditions. And this would mean that people could get loads of them. Now, Blizzard's intent was you could only do those, I believe, once a week. Now, I think it was once a week anyway. Now, essentially, people were able to farm those, so they'd farm up all the fragments, they'd be able to do loads of these. Now, for some players, they caught on to this and intentionally just got as many chests as they could. For some other players, they just saw, oh, this chest is respawned, I'll go get a bunch of fragments and open the chest, and they did that a whole bunch of times. And what happened was, those people were automatically banned, because it does seem like there are systems there in the game that, auto-detect whenever, I guess, behavior is kind of outside of regular bounds. Now, that said, the fact that auto-detection system will find out this, but does not find out the trade chat and, LFG are spammed by gold sellers and, like, real money boosters. I mean, that is a bit wild. It sort of seems like the automated stuff is more prioritized on, preventing abuse and maintaining balance than, like, core game experience. So that's a bit of a rough issue. Hot fixes are in the way for this issue, and the bans have been reverted. Blizzard agree that too many people could have unintentionally found themselves exploiting that system, so that's what's ended up happening there. But yet again, another really big QC issue that absolutely should have been caught. Unfortunately though, that's not the end of it. So the auction house. Now, the good news here is you won't have actually lost gold in the long run, but in the short term, you probably have lost gold if you've used the auction house. So basically what's happening is people, if you sell 1,000 of a material on the auction house, whenever you go to your mailbox, well, maybe only 600 of that item worth of gold are actually coming back to you. Yeah, stuff's actually just literally going missing in terms of the player experience there. People on the Reddit WoW economy page are reporting losing like 400,000 gold. And at the end of the day, because of WoW token, that gold sort of does have a real money value for many players. And that's essentially what's happening. Obviously here, the new auction house feature was pushed out before it was ready. The QC was not done, and we're now in a situation where players are losing a fairly extreme amount of gold. Now, we do have a GM response saying that Blizzard do have the logs for everything and that the gold can actually be restored to players. However, that does mean don't use the auction house now until that is actually fixed. Now, I think the big question is, is that going to be a manual fix where Blizzard have got to manually give that money back to people, or will it be more of an automated one? Now, if it's an automated one, then I don't know. I mean, I've got to imagine they've got to write a database script to just, iterate through every single player. Because, I mean, I don't know how else you'd do that. It's certainly going to be a bit of work that they will not want to be doing, but that's what's happened. The auction house, don't use it. I mean, personally, I think the auction house revamp is in many ways absolutely fantastic. Just the experience, right? If you right-click on an item, all your stuff appears in terms of, the pricing. Very different from my days of scanning 29 pages and it taking like 20 minutes on Draenor EU. So once it's fixed up, I think stuff will be pretty good. But right now, there are big problems there. And there also seems to be like auction house add-on issues. I know that TSM has been having extreme performance issues lately. So yeah, that's what's up with the auction house, but there's actually another thing that you really should be aware of. So this is something that appeared last night, and it's a bit weird. So basically, there was a bunch of rolling server restarts. They actually found, though, that once the servers restarted, well, a whole bunch of daily quests would respawn. And when people asked Blizzard CS about this, Blizzard CS said, well, the daily quests are there. Yeah, go do them. Now, the problem is that then if people logged out of their character and logged back in, the daily quests would be there again. And if they did those daily quests and logged out and in again, the daily quests would respawn again. Now, the thing is that those daily quests, well, they give you reputation, right? They give you coalescing visions. I think the visions are almost less important here than the reputation, because that reputation does lead, to rank 3 essences. And I believe the rank 3 DPS essence is absolutely one that you're going to be wanting. So that's quite a problem. Now, I have not heard yet of any bans happening here. I think it's fairly obvious to Blizzard that this is something that an average player could, you log in, you don't know this new patch, you see a blue quest marker, you go do the quest, you log out, you log in again, an hour later, you go do it again. There are, I think, like times where people could be doing that 3 or 4 times in a day and not think they're, abusing game mechanics or whatever the sort of ban reasoning would be there. And also, I mean, the blue question mark, that is used for repeatable quests in the game. So yeah, Blizzard really shouldn't ban people here, but unfortunately, they might be left in a situation where they'll have to roll back characters because this could be exploited to get way too much reputation. You could pretty much just sit there and infinitely get that rep till you're exalted, till you get your rank 3 essences, and that would obviously be a tremendous issue. So I think rollbacks will be needed there. Obviously, not an ideal solution. One I imagine they'll be on top of extremely quickly, but certainly unfortunate, and again, certainly not something that the World of Warcraft development team is going to be thrilled about. Next, though, loot. There's a good chance you've not been getting the loot that you actually deserve, but that because you've not understood this new system, you won't have known that you've been missing out on the new loot. So in yesterday's video, I reported my guild group's experience, right? Now, we went through horrific visions. I was really greedy on my first vision. I thought I could do an objective, and I couldn't, and I managed to die. So I lost my vessel, but that was because I was being very silly. But then I did my next vision. I just went straight to Thrall, defeated him, right? I completed my quest with Rathian, and I got some resources, and I got a 420 piece of gear that was corrupted. Luckily for me, it was the second best corruption. So I just get another 6,000 DPS for free. Pretty sweet, but not balanced. We'll get onto that later. But then we did 2 more essences. One of them was a 1 objective run, the other one was a 2 objective run. And based on the PTR, I should have got a 420 for defeating Thrall, but then if I defeated Thrall again, right, I didn't, push my progress further that week, I would have got a less good reward. But based on PTR behavior and what the Wowhead guide writer and my own experience, and basically everyone's guides based on PTR, based on what we would have assumed there, if I then did a 1 objective, I should have got a 425, and then a 2 objective should have given me a 430. But I actually found I got none. Now, I asked for your feedback on this issue, and I had loads of people saying, yep, I went in, I did 5 visions, I got 5 bits of loot, bit of loot from all of them. Then some other people reported the exact same experience as mine, where they got a 420 from the initial boss and then nothing else. And I mean, somebody actually reported that they got a 420 with a socket, which, I mean, Titan Forging is disabled for that. So how did a socket get there? Nobody knows. That one's a mystery. Maybe, maybe they were incorrect, maybe they were right, and just Titan Forging somehow happened. A bit weird. Now, and I'm not going to say the name of the QA tester or anything because I don't know if it would be unsanctioned for them to reach out. But, a QA tester for World of Warcraft, or at least somebody claiming to be that, did reach out to me on Discord. And, they asked for questions. Now, because of the time zone, we haven't actually chatted properly about it yet. Of course, I'm in the EU, they're US, right? Different time zones. But the fact that a QA tester heard about my experience and my guild's experience of doing those runs and not getting loot, and then decided to reach out to me, that does seem like a confirmation that the intended behavior is what was described on the public test realm. And if that's the case, that means, it means I'm owed 2 bits of loot, please, thank you very much. But it also means that actually, in terms of the gear situation in World of Warcraft, loads of people are just out an entire week's worth of, probably corrupted gear. Now that's really, really bad because A, that's a new feature of this patch that is supposed to give people, customization and options and gameplay, and they've not got that. But also, this is the week before we start raiding, and that's going to really impact the balance. And there's a problem here where if Blizzard just decide, to give me the vessel of horrific visions back, then I'm going to have an unfair advantage when it comes to the cloak. But generally, Blizzard have a policy of if you don't get loot, they're not going to generate it for you. So we just don't know how this is going to pan out. And it seems like because a lot of elements of this patch were not really commonly understood by the player base because it's a very systems-driven patch, it just seems like a lot of people did not know this was an issue. Now, I could be wrong in these things, but the fact that a WoW QA tester reached out, seemingly, and the conflicting reports that I have had, does indicate that we are dealing with something, something pretty wild going on here that's affecting the core loot mechanic of this patch. And that's fairly major. Anyway, next, and I suppose on the topic of corrupted gear, Infinite Stars has been nerfed by 25%. But it's still, way better than Echoing Void, and both it and Echoing Void are still way better than all of the alternatives. We are in a situation right now where the current balance of this corrupted gear can't hit the raid. I've just got to be real here. It cannot hit the raid. It will destroy the integrity of Ny'alotha. DPS characters who get the right bits of corrupted gear right now are so ludicrously overpowered. I was even just seeing, Ashvane has, some specific reasons why people could be doing an extreme amount of DPS, like 300k, but, I've been seeing parses of I think it was one of a hunter, and, they were dealing 30-something K DPS just from their regular abilities, and then Infinite Stars was dealing 32k DPS. Now, sure, it's been nerfed 25%, but that can't hit raid, and that can't hit the world first. I think that is very much evidence, right? I think because the WoW team will have known this. Being real, sometimes, they have a real tough time developing this game, I think, and I think it's for a lot of external reasons that they're probably not very happy about. And from what I understand, even just reading Jason Schreier's articles, morale at Blizzard has been pretty darn low. So they're probably not in a great state. They're locked into these dates. And I know there's times where, to a lot of the player base, it's going to feel like it's super low effort and they don't care. Whereas I think it's actually just that it's such chaos over there that it's probably a miracle anything gets out to us at all. But it's just wild. And the fact that this has happened, and they will know about it, I think that does just speak to the fact that they probably knew this patch was not ready, and, the bean counters Activision-Blizzard were like, sorry everyone, that's the patch release date. We have a mount promotion planned. You gotta do it. And lo and behold, I think that's kind of what's going on here. Now, that said, some of the devs do seem to be doing their best here. They are being responsive, so I think it was Jeremy Fiesel on Twitter. I am very sorry if I've got that wrong. I retweeted his tweet, but basically he said that they are decreasing some of the spawn times for rares, and they are decreasing the quest requirements for the Uldum rare one that I think had everyone talking. And, you know, if he said that they're going to be doing that, I would very much hope, I would very much recommend that, you know, for freeing our imprisoned Pandaren friends and right-clicking on our various obelisks across the zones, if they could maybe make those spawn a little bit faster, if they could maybe make those be shared between people who are right-clicking on them, I think you would you'd have a better, you know, gameplay experience there with doing those daily quests. So hopefully they're looking into that. The fact that they are doing a pass on those elites, though, does suggest to me that that is the case. Then also for the unearthed artifacts Uldum daily quest, right now it seems like those are actually not spawning. There's a bunch of reports of that. We'll just have to wait and see. Oh, wow. Okay, there is one more thing. Store mounts. Yes, there's a new store mount that's came in, and you know, it actually reminds me of something that we covered on our other channel. And if you don't know, we've got another channel. We aim to post 6 videos a week there. And one of the stories we covered in our most recent episode of The Roundup, which is kind of like our catch-all gaming news show, Activision for Call of Duty, right when Australia was literally burning, decided it's time to release the I think it was called the Outback. It was like a bundle of cosmetics themed around Australia. Now, it was eventually, you know, made that all the proceeds would go to helping, you know, the Australian relief effort, but it was kind of one of those things where it's like, regardless of what's going on, they had their schedule, and that's where that cosmetic bundle was actually going to come out. Now, they did make the right call there, and props to them for doing that and for listening to their community. But right now, we're in a situation where 8.3's had a bit of a rocky time, and we've got the store mount releasing. Now, obviously, you know, it's in time for the Chinese New Year. That's something they typically do. And as always, I have got to say, absolutely hats off to the artists at Blizzard. That is a gorgeous mount. It is animated beautifully. You have done an incredible job, and you should be proud of yourselves. Wonderful work. Now, that said, it is also a continuation of a new addition to the World of Warcraft business model, which is the idea of locking people in for those 6-month stretches of time, because yes, it does come for free with the 6-month sub. This is something that I have talked about before. I don't really think it bears repeating again. You know, it's something that I've got because I'm on the 6-month sub. I mean, like, it's cheaper that way. I literally do World of Warcraft for a living. It makes a lot of sense for me to be on that 6-month sub. But, you know, obviously the intent there is that people are going to think, well, I'm paying, you know, every 3 months, every 1 month, and there's a mount, it's worth $25. I'll just do the 6 months. And, I mean, being real here, I personally do not believe that patch 8.3 has enough content to be super fun and engaging for 6 months of time. And with us now knowing that patch 8.3.5 is cancelled, you know, if you want to do that mount, then you know what, you can do that. That is your own decision. I'm not going to tell you what to do. I mean, I'm not the biggest fan of the sort of whaling they end up doing with the WoW business model, but, you know, I get it. That's your own choice to make. I would say, though, that as compared to maybe other times in World of Warcraft's life, I think that the value proposition of the World of Warcraft subscription, while it may be strong in the next 2 or 3 months, because Visions are an incredible piece of content that I love the design of and I've been having a blast in, and while I think Nyloth is probably going to be an incredibly fun raid, I don't think there's really anything else in this patch, and we know there's no 8.3.5, so the value proposition there certainly has dipped down. And you know what, actually, I will say this. Props to Ian for admitting that 8.35 in an interview is not going to happen. You know, he could have not said that. People could have continued to assume that 8.3.5 wasn't the plan because, after all, there was stuff data mined that literally had 8.3.5 in it. And, you know, that could have sold people down the river a bit. So absolutely props to him for being honest on that topic. And, you know, there are like a whole bunch of other known issues, including the ones that I mentioned in the last video, but there you go. That is our, I mean, this is like patch 8.3, like aftercare episode 2. Hopefully things get in a better situation. Certainly is a mixed scenario. I do think, though, Blizzard, if any of you are watching this and, you know, you're in a position to maybe advocate for some change, you know, once the dust has settled, once these issues have been fixed, what I would say to you is this, you know, try to see if you can hotfix in account-wide essences. You know, I think it's like in the Legion expansion, if you guys had have put the artifact weapon abilities or maybe the golden traits behind, you know, farming 3 weeks of a boss, I don't think that would have made sense in the Legion expansion. I don't think it makes sense now. And I think right now, you know, your patch does not have that much content in it, but I think Horrific Visions are a really fun mechanic, and you know, maybe playing those Horrific Visions and multiple characters would be a really fun thing to do. But right now, a lot of players feel like they can't get the full mechanical potential of their character. And even though, in terms of alt friendliness, like AP catch-up is super fast, gear catch-up is super fast, I think it's just this like emotional resonance issue, right? Where people feel like it's maybe more of a problem than it is. But I mean, certainly, if you want that Ashara Essence at rank 3, it's an issue. So, I mean, I think you get the point here, right? If you could do that, right, get the account-wide essences there, and then if you could work out a way for maybe more Horrific Visions, getting to be able to do more of those per week, because right now they're an incredible feature. I love it. It's great. But you can only do like 3 a character per week. I mean, you could have done like 5 or 6 this week because you got a bunch of free stuff, but after that, it's only 3 a week in terms of the resources your character actually gets. So, yeah, if you could maybe get it so we could just enjoy that gameplay more, maybe you could change the rewards or past a certain level or have diminishing returns, and just do it so that it's less punishing and we can actually enjoy that incredible content that your team made. I think that would be for the best of World of Warcraft's health. And then past that, I mean, hey, good luck is what I'd say to them. Certainly, it's a big old situation, and yeah, there we go. That's it for the video. I'm all out. There's nothing more. But hey, maybe something else will explode tomorrow. Yeah, personally, I'm looking forward to Nyalotha. I've enjoyed my visions a lot. I'm going to get into Mythic Plus next week. I'm going to be playing my character. Love playing my DH. I've got some essences that are fun. I'm not really playing alts right now. I'm going to have fun in the core gameplay there. There certainly are issues, and they're very sad. The devs don't want them to happen. We don't want them to happen. It's a pity that Activision-Blizzard's bean counters last year just gutted, you know, part of the WoW team in terms of QA. And, you know, there's times where I think community management, QA testing, they're not considered development roles. And I suppose I kind of get that. It's like, yeah, are they programming? Maybe not as much. Are they doing art for the game? Maybe not as much. But it turns out, actually, you know, you're shipping a game. And a part of shipping a game is ensuring that it works. And that is development. A part of shipping a game is, you know, like interaction with the community of that game, especially for a live game. And I really do think that those people should be counted as core development when it comes to the financial decision-making of that company. And it's rotten the way that it ended up happening. And also, you know, World of Warcraft, if you're looking through the super data reports, like I think it was like around rank 7 or 8 in terms of like games, you know, revenue. And we couldn't really get the number good enough to be a video, but we were estimating between $700 million and $1 billion per year in World of Warcraft West revenue. Now, World of Warcraft and Call of Duty are Activision-Blizzard's 2 largest games in terms of the money they bring in. And even just from a cold financial perspective, the fact that they were so money-grubbing that they ended up deciding to, like, starve resources for the sake of saving money from the core World of Warcraft team, one of their highest-performing teams in terms of money, they can't be trusted to make rational decisions when it comes to making good games that are worth putting your money into. And I hope that these failures and just the cost that is being inflicted upon their teams, I hope that eventually it just wakes up someone in Activision. And if you want another example of a big corporate BS Activision-Blizzard move, the OWL is an incredible microcosm of it, and we actually did a report on what's going on there, how they are basically having key talent leaving in droves on our news channel. We did that yesterday, and if you're interested in these behind-the-scenes issues, I think you'll find it incredibly interesting. So I'd recommend watching that if you want something else to do. But okay, thank you very much for sticking through this video. I'll see you next time, I guess. I don't have an outro for this one. This is just one of those, you know, big, long videos. I don't know. I hope I made your daily quests a little bit more fun. I hope you got that final Pandaren prisoner, that final obelisk that you've been looking for this last half an hour. Cheers. I will see you next time.